Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 60 based on novel. So let's start. Bang! There was another violent bang, and a figure flew out of his body completely out of control. Then he fell to the ground, and the blood in his mouth kept spewing out. The whole person was almost seriously injured. Not far from this person, Xiao Yan is walking towards him carelessly. The huge black ruler in his hand leaves a ruler mark several inches deep on the ground. Behind him, Qin Zhong follows Xiao Yan with a wooden face. After seeing Xiao Yan's violence, Qin Zhong has become completely numb to the scene in front of him. From the beginning of Xiao Yan's action, the 6-star and half emperor, the opponent that Qin Zhong could not defeat, was like a pool of mud in front of Xiao Yan. The strength of the 6-star and half emperor was wronged in front of Xiao Yan, and there was no chance of backhand. Qin Zhong also remembers that when Xiao Yangchu came to the wilderness and fought with Li Gan, although he still defeated Li Gan in the end, he just relied on his own body method and terrible fighting skills, and finally Luo Lao's power. At that time, Xiao Yang, with all his strength and without using the fighting skills, was at most tied with Li Gan. Even so, it was absolutely Xiao Yang who suffered in the end. After all, the strength of the 6-star half-emperor not only represents its own strength, but also the fighting gas reserves in the body, which is definitely not comparable to Xiao Yang, a 3-star half-emperor. But now, in just a few months, Xiao Yang's strength has been so strong that he can only draw with Li Gan before, but now he can easily clean up the latter. The great contrast in this strength makes Qin Zhong feel a little untrue in his heart. But no matter how he can't believe it, the fact is that Xiao Yang's growth speed is completely beyond imagination. Even Luo Lao is also amazed. Of course, the 6-star and half-emperor is the 6-star and half-emperor. Anyway, the strength is always there. It is not easy for Xiao Yang to deal with it, but although Li dares to fight back, it is useless after a round of heavy bombardment by Xiao Yang. The power of 7 times breaking the sky ruler also gave Xiao Yang a more real understanding. That day, after all, he was fighting Luo Jin. He would keep his hand no matter how he shot, but today is different. In the face of Li Gan, Xiao Yang won't have the slightest burden in his heart, but he is eager to try. After 3 feet in a row, the 6-star and half-emperor has consumed a lot. 3 feet in a row, each foot is equivalent to a human-level advanced fighting skill. Li Gan can't bear it under 3 feet. Cough. What kind of fighting skill is this? Under the ruins, Li Gan's body is still buried and hasn't come out yet. Compared with this, he seems to be more concerned about the fighting skills of Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang's eyes coagulated slightly, and his feet stopped. He continued to walk forward, holding the palm of Shen Chongkai slowly, and the giant Kai was lifted a little. This is the fighting skill I just learned not long ago. I call it 7 times breaking the sky ruler. Xiao Yang's eyes narrowed and stared at the ruins. A dark light flashed through his pupils. Under the ruins, in Li Gan's cloudy eyes, his pupils suddenly contracted, and he was surprised by Xiao Yang's words. 7 broken sky feet. He just waved 3 feet. If all of them. Li Gan was secretly frightened at the bottom of his heart for fear that Xiao Yang would give him a few more feet. But after a few breaths, Li Gan's eyes flashed a cruel look, and his face under the ruins was a little gloomy and distorted. Rock owl. Xiao Yang paused. At the moment, the fighting spirit in his body has also consumed nearly a quarter of the amount. This is also because he is on the edge of breaking through. Otherwise, I'm afraid he will consume more. Drink. With a fierce drink, the ruins in front of Xiao Yang exploded. The dust debris was several feet away from Xiao Yang, and was resisted by an invisible force. Xiao Yang's vision passed through the dust, and Li Gan even cheated and fled. Xiao Yang frowned slightly. It was strange that Li dared to escape, but that he still had the ability to escape. The 3 feet bombarded Li Gan. He didn't have time to take action at all. If he completely accepted the 3 feet, he couldn't even speak easily. This is what Xiao Yang suspected. Why? Even some kind of body refining can never give him the ability to escape. With a murmur in his mouth, Xiao Yang didn't take care of the Qin Zhong on one side. He put away the Shen heavy ruler, and quickly caught up with Li Gan, who fled quickly. He wanted to know why Li dared to take over his 3-foot power with his body. Above the void, Xiao Yang stands up and intercepts Li Gan not far in front. With Xiao Yang's speed, he can easily catch up with Li Gan, who is not at the peak at the moment. Seeing Xiao Yang again, Li Gan was unconventional, and the dignified look on his face was swept away. On the contrary, he showed an extremely yin and evil smile. Xiao Yang frowns. What else does Li Gan want? With his current situation, Xiao Yang tries his best to kill him forcibly in a few breaths. How did you do it? My 3 feet, each foot is equivalent to a Taoist advanced fighting skill. Your strength can't stand up after you bear it. Ignoring the evil smile at the corners of Li Gan's mouth, Xiao Yang went straight to the subject and asked Li Gan the questions in his heart. He did not believe that Li Gan could never bear it without the help of foreign objects. Smelling the speech, Li Gan's evil smile at the corner of his mouth became more and more angry. His dark old eyes stared at Xiao Yang, and the killing intention in his eyes was obvious. Do you really want to know? Say. When the palm of his hand was called, Shen Chongkai appeared again, and Xiao Yang gave the most direct answer. Jie. With the strength of 3 stars and half emperors, you can understand the human-level fighting skills. Your talent is really terrible. If you grow up smoothly, you may not have a place in the mainland in the future. Li Gan giggled. I don't know whether the meaning in the words is the admiration for Xiao Yang or a different taste. And the reason why I can block your 3 feet. Li Gan stared at Xiao Yang like a poisonous snake. His palm slowly raised, and the light in his palm flickered. A disc made of unknown material appeared in his palm. Then Li Gan continued. It is this array that we rely on. As soon as he said this, Xiao Yang suddenly picked up his eyebrows and was surprised. Array plate, this is something refined by Master Array. Xiao Yang still remembers that he killed a boy practicing array not long ago. Now he remembered that the guy at that time seemed to be arranging some array. As for the Tai astrolabe used by Luo Jin at the beginning, there is no doubt that it is also an array disc, but Xiao Yang didn't see Luo Jin's performance with his own eyes at that time, so he didn't know it. Array disc. His eyes narrowed, and Xiao Yang whispered in his heart. I see. I can't imagine that you should still have such a thing. Knowing the reason of the matter, Xiao Yang was too lazy to talk nonsense with Li Gan. Holding Shen Chongqi's palm, he tried to make a hand at Li Gan. In the face of such a guy as Yu Ligan, with Xiao Yang's temperament, he will not let go. After all, now that others are still in the wilderness, Li Gan has already shot Qin Zhong. The reason why he won't kill him is only for his own sake. But if he leaves, Li Gan is bound to make trouble for the family behind Qin Zhong. Instead of entrusting it to the Herbalist Guild at that time, it's better to let Xiao Yang solve him first. Jie. Yang Xiao, do you really think that I spent so much to lead you here for? When Xiao Yang was about to make a move, Li Gan smiled coldly and looked like he was holding the winning ticket, as if Xiao Yang had been ambushed by something set up in advance. Xiao Yang could not help but feel an inexplicable danger in his heart at the moment of hearing this sentence, but when Xiao Yang looked around, there were indeed many war circles in the sky, and those who fought were strong at the semi-imperial level, which really surprised Xiao Yang. During the half-month period, he really ignored a lot of things. But these are not enough to make Xiao Yang feel any threat. What does Li Gan mean? Is it difficult? Is this just a pretext for him to delay time? However, with years of combat experience, Xiao Yang doesn't think this is a cover. After all, in Li Gan's state at the moment, if he can't immediately entrust the pill, even if he delays for another day, the strength in his body will not improve much. On the contrary, he will aggravate the strength of his internal organs because he delays longer and longer. This means of procrastination is not a wise choice. With Li Gan's shrewdness, he naturally did until. Jie. Rock Owl, do you know who is the most popular person in the name of the wild ancient city in the past half a month? Seeing the puzzled look on Xiao Yang's face, Li Gan said a word with unknown meaning, which made Xiao Yang feel a little stunned. Listening to the meaning of his words, could it be that the person was himself? Gaga. Yes, it's you, Rock Owl. Suddenly, Li Gan shouted loudly, which was like a bolt from the blue, but Xiao Yang was surprised, and his palm holding Shen Chongkai was unconsciously tight. With a fierce drink, Li Gan's words spread all over the wild ancient city. In a moment, countless eyes full of various meanings came in an instant. Several battle circles in the fierce battle also stopped quickly. After a meal on Li Gan was immediately determined on Xiao Yang. At this moment, Xiao Yang was surrounded by countless invisible arrows. His always calm heart also aroused layers of huge waves at this moment. What the hell is going on? For the eyes of these people, Xiao Yang was at a loss. He didn't know why these people stared at him. He could only see that among the eyes of all kinds, Xiao Yang saw the most meaning, which was greed. What's going on? Xiao Yang frowned deeply and thought, but he couldn't think of a reason in his heart. He thought he had never seen these guys. How could they stare at himself? If it was just greed, the only thing he could attract the semi-imperial strong in recent months was the imperial product Quan Dan, Emperor Robbery Dan, and Void Thunder Pool Post. It's a void minefield post. Thinking of this, Xiao Yang suddenly woke up on his face and immediately understood in his heart that the reason why these people stare at themselves is the empty thunder pool that is about to open. Jia jia jia. At this time, Li Gan's laughter full of treachery came again. Xiao Yang raised his eyes and frowned at Li Gan opposite. This guy wants to use this group of semi-imperialist strongmen's greed for void thunder pool posts to deal with himself. This move is not cruel. Rock Owl, do you know how many people have been looking forward to your appearance in the past half a month? After all, you also have a void minefield post. Li Gan's voice was not small. Therefore, everyone in the world could hear it very clearly, which made the group of semi-imperialist strong more ready to move. Seeing the void Lei Kai post in front of them, how can these semi-emperor strong men sit idly by? The worst of them are 4-star semi-emperor. It's nothing to face Xiao Yang, a 3-star semi-emperor. Although they have heard of Xiao Yang's achievements before, it's a separate battle after all. Now, there are dozens of semi-emperor strong men present. How can Xiao Yang deal with it together? Seeing the half-emperors around, Xiao Yang's eyebrows wrinkled deeper, and his face gradually became a little gloomy. The cold light condensed in the pupils of his eyes, and a terrible threat of soul spread quietly at the moment, making all the half-emperors become pale. Li Gan, you're really scheming. You know you can't defeat me, so you came up with this method and let them do it for you. Jia jia. Everyone, you heard that. This is his own obedience. If anyone can kill him, the Void Thunder Pool Post will belong to who? I think you won't be afraid of the Rock Owl with your strength. Xiao Yang's cold words made Li dare sneer again. Every word pointed the edge in the eyes of the people at Xiao Yang. Naturally, he had a place to go. As long as the people dealt with Xiao Yang, he would kill Qin Zhong quickly with thunder. In this way, not only did he get the empty thunder pool post, but Xiao Yang would also die. This is exactly what Li Gan most expected to see in his heart. Under Li Gan's words, the half-emperor strong men immediately moved together to form an encirclement trend. They surrounded Xiao Yang in the center and looked at Xiao Yang fiercely. The invisible threat shrouded the sky. Xiao Yang's face also showed a dignified look at this moment. Jia. Everybody, kill Xiao Yang quickly. The Void Thunder Pool Post is in his ring. In addition, the Imperial Robbery Pill of Emperor Pin Quan Dan must also be in his ring. As long as you kill the Rock Owl, it will be more than the Void Thunder Pool Post. Enough, have you finished? Li Gan's voice did not fall, but a semi-emperor strong man not far behind him drank out in a cold voice, which made Li Gan's words stagnant. It has nothing to do with you whether the Void Thunder Pool is on him or not. As for killing him, we have no resentment with him in the past and no hatred recently. Why kill him? Hey, that's why we fight, but for the Void Thunder Pool Post, and why we kill people. As for you, we heard it very clearly just now. You deliberately led the Rock Owl here and wanted to use the Void Thunder Pool Post to let us kill him. You are so brave. How dare you take our semi-imperial strongmen as the gun? The two men's words fell down, and those semi-imperial strongmen around them immediately turned their eyes to Li Gan. Their words were also full of contempt and disdain for Li Gan, which made Li Gan's face turn green and white. For a time, they were speechless and hard to argue. Seeing this, Xiao Yang couldn't help sneering at himself. He wanted to take advantage of others, but he didn't want to steal the chicken and eat the rice. Hee. You guys, this is just to show off my eloquence, that's all. Hee, there are dozens of semi-emperors present, and there are many people better than me. Even if I'm really bold, I can't take you as a gun envoy, hey. After the good film, Li Gan just looked at a group of powerful emperors behind him with a smile. An old face also showed a smile as if it were sincere, trying to cover up what he had done. Of course, these semi-imperialist strongmen are not fools. They naturally know the right and wrong. They also know the true and false points in Li Gan's words. However, having said that, most of the semi-imperialist strongmen present were too lazy to entangle more on this issue. After all, they came to the empty thunder pool. As for Li Gan's thoughts on Xiao Yang, they didn't want to pay more attention. In a word, Xiao Yang has nothing to do with them. These semi-imperial strongmen only find Xiao Yang for the sake of the Void Thunder Pool Post. If they don't want to have a relationship with Xiao Yang, it's just the Void Thunder Pool Post, but this is not enough to be their reason to kill Xiao Yang. What's more, Xiao Yang is the chief herbalist of today's herbalist guild, and has a relationship with Yuninga. He is also the champion of this herbalist congress. Now he can be called a famous person. I don't know how many people want to make friends with him for an imperial product Quan Dan. These semi-emperors in front of him naturally dare not easily become enemies with Xiao Yang. Moreover, even in this situation at the moment, I'm afraid there are some people who want to make friends with Xiao Yang. In the southwest border, there is a herbalist who can refine the imperial product Quan Dan, but he has never seen it for a long time. Now there is one in front of everyone. Naturally, they don't want to offend easily. In that case, you can go. The second old man looked at Xiao Yang in his eyes. Then he looked at Li Gan again and said indifferently. When Li Gan heard this, his mood naturally relaxed a lot. Although he also knew that what he had just said was not enough to be trusted in the eyes of these people, as long as he could have this sentence at the moment, his goal would be achieved. As the old man's words came out, those semi-imperialist strongmen who surrounded Li Gan also retreated from the crowd and allowed only one person to pass through. Among these semi-emperors in the field, the two semi-emperors in front of Li Gan are already the strongest in the field. They have spoken, and these people naturally have no need to continue to say more. Wait. The voice of indifferent words came out slowly. This time, the people turned their heads together, but then they couldn't help frowning, and a look of surprise appeared on their faces. Because the speaker is Xiao Yang, who has not spoken since just now. Xiao Yang raised his eyes and stared at Li Gan, who was about to leave. There was a gorgeous flame beating in his eyes. Li Gan also answered and looked over. As soon as he saw that the speaker was Xiao Yang, his face suddenly showed a surprised look. Unexpectedly, at this moment, Xiao Yang still clung to him. Did he really want to face so many people and fight with himself? Why? Rock Owl, do you still want to do it? If so, I don't mind playing with you again. Although his heart is also extremely afraid of Xiao Yang, after all, in front of so many people, Li Gan has enough face on his old face. He thinks that Xiao Yang absolutely dare not go too far in front of so many powerful emperors. After all, if Xiao Yang continues to use his Kai fighting skills, even if Li Gan will be seriously injured in the end, Xiao Yang himself will certainly become extremely weak. In this situation, once Xiao Yang is weak, his acceptance will inevitably be robbed by the strong and powerful. At that time, it will be really troublesome. Li dare to be confident that Xiao Yang will never put himself in that situation for him, which is one of the reasons why Li dare sneer back after hearing Xiao Yang's words. The battle between you and me is not over yet. How can I let you go? Since you have made up your mind to hurt me today, then you can stay for me. Xiao Yang's eyes narrowed and his tone was extremely indifferent. The cold meaning in his words made his back feel cold. Li Gan also stared at Xiao Yang, and his throat rolled slightly unconsciously, which surprised many half-emperors in the field. Although they had heard of the first battle between Xiao Yang and Li Gan when Xiao Yang came to the wild ancient city, Xiao Yang relied on his strong fighting skills to suppress Li Gan with an absolute advantage. In addition, Laro Cai Luo made Li Gan soft, but now Xiao Yang hasn't used his fighting skills. Two didn't see Luo Laro come forward. What was Li Gan afraid of? Rock Owl, sometimes you can't talk too full. Otherwise, you'll only feel more pain when you hit your face. Meaningless support will only harm yourself. Like a kind reminder, Li Gan changed the formula in his hand, and a terrible fighting spirit spread from his hands, causing a violent shock in the surrounding void. Until this moment, with the support of fighting skills in his hand, Li Gan felt that his inner mind had stabilized. Xiao Yang was strong. He had really seen him. Facing him, he must not regard him as an ordinary half-emperor. Ha ha. I remember that every time you can't defeat your opponent, you seem to like to threaten your opponent with self-explosion, don't you? Xiao Yang's words came again. This time, not only Li Gan, but also those semi-imperialist strong men around him frowned slightly and looked at each other. They felt strange about Xiao Yang's words in their hearts. They said this before they started to fight, which seemed a little big. Shua. At one moment, a cold and biting wind blew between heaven and earth. On this clear sky, people felt very strange. Only Li Gan, who stood opposite Xiao Yang, suddenly showed a surprised look on his face at the moment of the wind. His fighting skills did not hesitate to bombard the void on the right side of his body. Dish snake palm. With a fierce drink, the next moment, Li Gan's dry palm pounded on the void on the right. At the same time, in the invisible void, a black-robed figure suddenly appeared. It was undoubtedly Xiao Yang. Bang! Xiao Yang, who appeared from the right side of Li Gan's body, did not hesitate at all. His white palm burst out, and the black aperture in his palm quickly spread out. The black aperture full of phagocytic power blasted up with the oncoming palm. However, just when everyone thought there would be a wonderful duel, Li Gan's powerful palm in the field forcibly scattered Xiao Yang's heaven creation palm. At this scene, everyone was stunned. Even Li Gan himself was stunned by the power of Xiao Yang's palm. He could not imagine that with Xiao Yang's strength, how could he only burst out this level of power? However, the next moment, Li Gan's eyes suddenly coagulated, and his eyes at Xiao Yang were like seeing a monster. 1 star and a half emperor. How is this possible? Xiao Yang's strength in front of him can only reach 1 star and a half emperor. At the moment, also surprised by this scene, there are the strong semi-emperors around. They really can't figure it out. Just now, Xiao Yang, whose strength is still at the peak of the late 3-star semi-emperor, how can his strength become 1-star semi-emperor? Before the words of surprise in his heart fell, Li Gan's face suddenly changed again. Xiao Yang in front of him even showed him a very strange smile. The smile finally made him feel a deep uneasiness and fear. Boom! A terrible fighting storm swept through. On the void, all the powerful emperors and half of them were solemn and retreating thousands of feet. They stopped and looked at the center of the explosion. The color of fear in their eyes was not disguised at all, and they were even more frightened in their hearts. Dead! Dead! The half-emperor who spoke before looked at the center of the explosion with fear. Although the afterglow of the explosion made most people unable to see the situation clearly, as a 7-star half-emperor, he could vaguely observe something. At a glance, the center of the explosion has fallen into an empty and endless void. The terrible energy storm forms a vortex in the void, swallowing everything between heaven and earth. Under the sight, there was nothing else except a vague figure. Looking at its breath, although it was weak, it was still reluctantly. The explosion did not force it to kill. Alas! It seems that he is really dead. But how could it be because a Li Gan blew himself up? People like him shouldn't do such stupid things. Another semi-imperial strongman showed a look of doubt and regret in his eyes. His eyes were also looking at the center of the explosion. The bright light was also impossible to look directly in this day. He really blew himself up. Is that rock owl crazy? In order to kill a Li Gan, he blew himself up directly. Didn't he die in vain? Alas! It's a pity that a peerless Qianjiao finally died so unwilling. It's really worthless. Just a moment ago, they watched Xiao Yang. After a fierce collision with Li Gan, they were still defeated. The gap between 1-star and half emperor and 6-star and half emperor was still too big after all, and Xiao Yang seemed to make the last fight. At the last blow, he blew himself up and wanted to kill Li Gan at the cost of his own life. It's just a pity, but in the end, it can only make Li dare fall into serious injury and want to kill him, but there is still too much difference. Cough. He coughed hard twice, blood spilled from the corners of his mouth, and his heavy body fell all the way from the high altitude, and finally fell on the street below. At this moment, Li Gan only felt that even breathing was a kind of pain. Although he held a breath in his chest and wanted to spit out, he only moved his body slightly, and there would be a nearly tearing pain from his internal organs, which made Li Gan extremely painful. Although the injury on Li Gan's body almost killed most of Li Gan's life, once he remembered that this was brought by Xiao Yang's self-explosion, Li Gan didn't feel a sense of comfort in his heart. Ha ha, Rock Owl, you didn't expect it. You blew up your accomplishments to kill me, but you still killed me in exchange. Ha ha ha. Li Gan thought with great excitement. At the moment, people in the sky also looked at each other with different faces. I thought I could have the chance to fight for the Void Thunder Pool post, but now, before they started, Xiao Yang died first. Isn't this a waste of time for them? Sure. But when the people shook their heads and sighed, there was a sudden wind blowing on the void. This evil wind made everyone feel a little strange, and the few 7-star and half emperors in the crowd could not help frowning. Li Gan, who was seriously injured on the ground below, was suddenly tense in his heart at the moment when the yin wind roared. This yin wind was the heaven and earth vision that Xiao Yang had just appeared when he used Chenjua step. How could it be? He clearly blew himself up and couldn't be alive. But this is... Poof! Before he could react, a black-robed figure suddenly appeared in front of Li Gan's chest. The figure appeared without stopping. He stepped on Li Gan's chest with one foot. Suddenly, blood gushed out in anger and stained the black robe, making its color more profound. You! Li Gan was vague and wanted to speak, but the great force from his chest interrupted his thinking, let alone talk greedily. Oh! I really thought I would be stupid enough to explode with you. You're not qualified. Xiao Yang said indifferently and looked at Li Gan's eyes, full of disdain. You. How do you? Why didn't I die? Xiao Yang sneered and looked more disdainful in his eyes. It's very simple, because the self-explosion is not my noumenon. At the exit of the voice, Li Gan's eyes suddenly coagulated and his heart quickly understood. No wonder he had just fought with Xiao Yang. The strength of the other party was only 1.5 stars. He also deliberately left his hand to play with the other party. Unexpectedly, the person who was finally played with was still him. At this time, the people in the sky also quickly found Xiao Yang below. Even at the moment of light, they didn't expect Xiao Yang to be alive. In this case, there will be a place for the Void Thunder Pool post. No matter how, they will never give up easily. Xiao Yang looked up and saw those semi-emperor strong men flying to him. He smiled and knew that they would not give up easily, but it was not important to him. These people could not help him. Looking down, Xiao Yang stared at Li Gan, leaned down, put his palm slowly on Li Gan's heart, and said softly with a smile. Tell you one thing, the 7.5-star emperor who died in my hand has one hand. The voice fell, Li Gan's pupil suddenly shrunk to the size of the tip of a needle. At the same time, Xiao Yang's palm trembled slightly and took it back. At this time, all internal meridians in Li Gan's body, including his heart, are broken inch by inch, and the weak breath between Li Gan's nose is completely cut off. Above the sky, the two 7.5 emperors stood still and looked at each other. Xiao Yang's actions were all in their eyes, and his means were naturally all in their eyes. Oh, let's go and find someone else. I won't wade in this muddy water. They smiled at each other and left immediately. After all, they are semi-imperialist and strong. Although people are different and will always be blinded by greed, some people will always have a long-term vision. Such people usually go farther than ordinary people on the road of cultivation. Xiao Yang glanced at the two people who had gone there, and a look of surprise flashed in his eyes. Then he focused his eyes on the half-emperor strong men who gathered again at the moment. Ha ha, I can't imagine that your excellency Yang Xiao, although I don't know what means you have, you can deceive all of us. However, since you are still alive, it will save us some trouble. As long as you hand over the Void Thunder Pool post, we will let you go. It won't be more difficult. At the same time, Xiao Yang was surrounded by the crowd, so that Xiao Yang had no way out. Hearing this, Xiao Yang raised his eyebrows lightly, glanced over a group of powerful emperors and a sneer arose from the corners of his mouth, saying, Okay, just give it. There are many of you anyway. Even if the words were not pleasant to hear, they didn't expect that Xiao Yang would respond so happily. It seems that this process is much easier than expected. But, just when everyone was happy for Xiao Yang's words, Xiao Yang opened his mouth again and gathered everyone's eyes on himself again. There are so many semi-imperialist strongmen here, but after all, I only have a Void Thunder Pool post, but I don't know who to give the Thunder post to. When the words came out, how could these semi-imperialist strongmen not know that Xiao Yang clearly provoked discord and wanted them to fight among themselves? At that time, I'm afraid no one will have a chance to get the Thunder post in Xiao Yang's hand. Rock Owl, you don't have to worry about it. You just have to hand over the Void Thunder Pool post. We will distribute it ourselves, and you can leave by yourself. But what if I say no? Xiao Yang smiled lightly and looked calm. Rock Owl, do you want us to do something against you? We respect you as the chief herbalist of the Medicine Refining Association and the champion of this Medicine Refining Association. That's why you're so polite to you. Don't toast without penalty. Bang! Xiao Yang's mind moved. Bei Wangdun appeared and stood beside Xiao Yang. When his feet fell to the ground, he stepped out of a huge pit about 10 feet deep. When Bei Wang appeared, the overbearing breath suddenly came out, which made all the people he saw show a dignified look. At this moment, the person who led the speech just now changed his face suddenly, and the words he wanted to blurt out were also stubbornly blocked in his throat. This video will end here.